Welcome to Courage on the Pitch, brought to you by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care.
North Carolina champions again!
Here's Megan O'Keefe.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Courage on the Pitch, sponsored by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care. We're in episode 5. I'm so excited to have you all back, and if you're new to the show, welcome. Before we get into it with our amazing guest, Abby Erceg, just want to remind everyone to like, rate, subscribe, put that 5 stars, send us a little comment wherever you're listening to your podcasts. And you can always find us on WRALSportsFan.com, on the app, and on the YouTube channel for 99.9 The Fan. So now that we got those logistics out of the way, and before we get into our conversation with Abby Erceg, let's do a little recap of this past week's events. So I think last time we put out an episode, it was the morning of the final Olympic match for the U.S. women's national team. They were in the bronze medal match. And yes, they won the bronze. They came out on top against Australia, winning that match 4-3, courtesy of 2 goals from Rapinoe and Carly Lloyd. Each had 2 goals apiece. And I just have to say, after everything said and done from these Olympics, no bias here, but the story of the Olympics for me was Lynn Williams from the Courage, obviously. And as many of you might know, this is a little Spark Notes version, but she was named an alternate of the tournament and ended up getting a starting spot in the quarterfinal game, scored a goal, had an assist against her teammate Sam Mewis from the Courage. So just a beautiful story right there. So just wanted to make sure everyone is reminded of that. Shout out to Lynn, shout out to Sam, and as well as Abby and Dabinia, who all represented their national teams. And now they'll be heading back to the Courage very soon. So excited to have those players back. And speaking of the Courage, they also had a game this past week. They traveled up to New Jersey to face New York Gotham FC on Saturday night. And again, came out on top, 1-0 win, courtesy of a goal from Meredith Speck. This was actually her first career goal, and she's been with the team for a couple years now, but it just goes to show how much of a playmaker she is, that this is her first career goal with the team. So shout out to Mare. Congratulations on your goal. And with that win, the Courage are now up in 2nd place. I think they had been in 5th or 6th before that game. So lots of movement happening in the league, but now Courage is sitting pretty in 2nd place in the league. And our men's side, NCFC, also had a match this past week on Tuesday night. They faced off against Chattanooga Red Wolves, and not the most pretty final score. They ended up losing 4-1. Cole Frame, one of our young academy stars, did get NCFC on the board in stoppage time, so he got a goal there. But some positive news from the team. Head coach John Bradford was voted Coach of the Month for USL League One for the month of July. Just a testament to all of the work he's put in with this team. Obviously, they had a tough start, but for the month of July, the team saw several wins and some dominating performances. So shout out to the team. Hopefully some more positive results in their future. All right, with that recap, everything being said there, we've got a really exciting interview coming up with Abby Erceg, Kiwi, as many people might know her as, and she is the captain of North Carolina Courage, and she's their veteran center back. She's been with the team since 2016, and Abby is actually from New Zealand, but throughout her professional career, she has played in Spain, Australia, Germany, and obviously now in the U.S., but on the international stage, she has represented her country, New Zealand, since 2007. She's played in 4 World Cups and 4 Olympics. So tons of experience on the world stage. And we talk all about her time at this year's Olympics, how different it was due to COVID, and also some of her positive experiences with the team and with the Courage. So we will get right into that interview right after these messages.
Courage on the Pitch, off the field.
We are joined by Abby Erceg. She's on Courage on the Pitch. Thanks so much for joining us, Abby.
Hi, so happy to be here.
All right. Well, first I noticed your dream catcher behind you. What is that from?
Oh, it's just I used to have like nightmares when I was a kid, like quite bad nightmares. I just kind of like to have one around or in my room, or I've got one tattooed on the side of my leg in case I can't find one. So yeah,
it's always with you.
I don't know if it's psychological or what, but yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Well, it's always with you, and I could use a little of those positive vibes right now. But now that you're joining us, definitely feeling the positive vibes. First of all, I was at training today, and I just got to ask, how do you survive this insane heat? I'm looking at my phone. It says like 102 degrees, it feels like.
I know. I think the key word is survival. You kind of just like forget everything, and it's like, what can I do to cool down? How can I make this easier? How can I just like make my life a little bit better in this moment? Still figuring that out 6 years later in this heat. Haven't figured it out yet.
I was about to say, you guys are real troopers. I was just on the sideline, like attempting to tweet or take a photo, and you guys are just running up and down the field, and I'm drenched in sweat. I'm like, how?
I know. I think if you're like suffering as a group, it's okay. Like if you're doing it by yourself, you'd be like, oh, I can't do it. But like when somebody else is with you, you're like, why not?
Yeah, we're in this together. We're just wet blankets together. All right. Well, I also, you guys have like either a training tank or a t-shirt. Are you more of a tank person, or are you wearing the sleeves?
Oh no, I am tank through and through. Through and through.
I feel like we need like a tank game jersey. I feel like that'd be a game changer.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, you should. How do we get that started?
I'll put in a good word. I think I know some people. Well, speaking of the heat, you were recently in Tokyo for the Olympics, which of course we want to chat all about. What was the weather? Of course, we're going to get into the Olympics in and of themselves, but was it as hot as everyone described it?
Yeah, it was really, really hot. I thought going over, being from NC, it was just going to be like a breeze, no problem. I've done it before. I've been doing it for like 2 months already, whatever. But it was just like, it's a, you know how you go places and everyone's always like, it's a different kind of heat. It's a different kind of heat. It's dry or it's humid, or again, Japan was just a different kind of heat. It was just like 8 o'clock at night, we were playing the games and it was still like really, really hot. It didn't really matter if the sun was out. Just the like temperature and the air was just like so hot. Like playing the US and just everyone was just like drenched in sweat. Like nobody really looked like they wanted to be out there. It was just like awful.
Yeah, you can only prepare so much for that too. Like, is your approach just obviously drink as much as you can and you get acclimated to the climate? But once you're in it, is there anything? It's just a lot of self-talk. Like, you got this, you can survive.
Yeah, we actually, our national team has quite a lot of strategies in place to make sure that we cool down. So on the way to the game, we'll have slushies to like try and help cool down your core body temperature. At the game, we've got like ice vests and stuff that you can wear. You have them at halftime as well. Ice towels at halftime. Slushies are kind of all the way through the game to just try and like bring that temperature down as much as you can. So there's a lot of ice around and a lot of like ice vests around.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. Are there any good flavors of your slushies?
It's just kind of what's going with the Gatorade that day. Okay. So I don't really get to choose, unfortunately.
You're like, I don't care what flavor this is. This could be broccoli.
Straight ice.
If it's cold, I'll take it. Well, okay, so I'm so curious about how these Olympics were, especially from your perspective, because you've been to, 3 Olympics prior to this,
right.
4 World Cups, just so many international tournaments, which I'm sure is amazing, big crowds and cool countries to travel to. So what was this one like, with all the COVID protocols and just the complete difference in past?
Yeah, I think I've been privileged enough to go to 3 prior, and I think every time you go, you do kind of compare and see who's done something better and like, what was good or whatnot. So this one was another different experience. They've all been really different experiences for me. And this one was obviously with the pandemic, just like in a field of its own. Mm-hmm. And it didn't really feel like the Olympics, which was quite sad. When you got there, the hype wasn't there. Obviously there were protests going on because Tokyo didn't want it to happen.
Wow.
At that going into the village, instead of people kind of cheering you, they were kind of like, why are you here? And then once you're there, you're in isolation, basically. So everything is, because the performance is so important and you've worked so hard to get there to perform, you do everything you can to make sure that you're going to be safe. And you kind of go overboard with it a little bit. So like literally every time you leave your room and come back in, you take your mask off and throw it out. So like it's a one-time use kind of thing. Anytime you touch anything or leave your room, you're sanitizing your hands. You're in the meal hall and you're grabbing your food and you're leaving straight away. And you don't want to touch anything. You don't want to be around people. You don't really want to be out experiencing the city or experiencing, anything around, which is the opposite to previous Olympics. Previous Olympics, you want to go out and you want to see things and you want to experience it and feel the atmosphere and feel the vibe of the place, because it's alive, it's exciting, it's people are cheering you on and they just want to see sports and people doing really well. So yeah, it was a bit disappointing in that sense. Obviously still very, very privileged to be there and privileged to, like I said, be able to compare. But I think for the girls that went the first time, this was their first time, I was disappointed for them. A lot of the Olympics is about the hype and about the atmosphere, and they missed out on that.
Right.
So that was sad. It was a little bit sad, I think.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, let alone being an Olympian, but experiencing it in that way, which even as a fan, I'm sure there's family members that wish they could have been there and seeing their family members playing in real life and in person, and they couldn't do that. And I know that mental health was such a huge conversation during these Olympics, and just you describing how your experience is what was, I can't imagine the toll that takes on your mental health when you're already trying to prepare for this massive tournament, while you now have to think about the safety and protecting others and yourself.
Yeah. And I think the mental health side of it, again, was another aspect that was added because, again, it's a different experience. So we have psychologists there making sure that people are okay because you're not leaving your room for 3 weeks, and it's just a different experience. But again, you kind of just take it in your stride. I think athletes are really good at taking things in their stride and just kind of keeping the big picture in mind. So the big picture was the performance, obviously, and the atmosphere is second to that. Obviously, we want to experience the atmosphere, but first and foremost, we're here to play, and that's at the end of the day, that's what we focus on.
I'm like, right, yeah, I totally get it. Right. No, but that's awesome. And like you said, you just seem so proud to represent your country, and I know you are. And so I would love to talk a little bit about you growing up in New Zealand, and from an American perspective, having never been there and only heard beautiful things. What was it like growing up in New Zealand? And how would you describe like 10-year-old Abby? What was she like?
I think as a child, I was very different to how I am now. Obviously I was set in my place for a while, but having grown up and just traveled everywhere and being in new environments all the time, I became a little bit more introverted than I usually would be because you're meeting new people, and then you're not able to connect with people as well as if you were in one place for a long time. So you kind of just keep to yourself and you have your own routines and whatnot. So as a 10-year-old, I was quite outgoing and I had a lot of friends, and I was a typical 10-year-old kid just enjoying their time. But yeah, New Zealand is every bit as beautiful as people say. I think it's on pretty much everybody's bucket list that I've ever spoken to. Like we have to go to New Zealand. Yeah. And anyone that ever goes has never been like, I wish I didn't go, or I regret that, or anything like that. It's just it's hard to describe because most people go to a place and they want to go to the beach, or they want to go hiking, or they want the hot, or they want the cold. But New Zealand kind of encompasses all of that in one place. So you can be at the beach and have a mountain behind you. You can be in the North Island if you want it to be warm, or you can be in the South Island if you want it to be cold and have all of those things. So it's quite unique in that aspect. And I tell people that you need about 2 weeks. If you want to see everything, give yourself a solid 2 weeks just to travel and explore and see it all.
Get your sleep schedule right.
Yeah. And it's a long way. So I think a lot of people don't get to go there because it's so far. I think it's like a 12-hour flight from LA. And to take 2 weeks off during the year just kind of doesn't happen that often. Right. But if people can't get there, I highly, highly recommend it. There's always a free place to stay. I always offer people a place to stay. So
say no more.
Yeah.
Well, at that age, was soccer already your life, or what other things were you interested in? And, what was your childhood like?
I think for kids in New Zealand, we have only 2 major sports, really. Soccer's not one of them. So we have rugby, which is really, really big. And obviously boys are more inclined to play that. And then we have netball, which is, I'm not sure if that came from England. I think it was established in England. And obviously being a Commonwealth country, we're going to adopt that. So we have netball, which is like basketball without dribbling and no backboard on the hoop.
Oh, interesting. Is that what you played?
So that's what girls play. I played soccer, but it's not a mainstream sport by any means, and it's not very well resourced or funded. So we don't have a professional league in New Zealand. And growing up, I didn't have like the Mia Hamm's to look up to or the Abby Wambachs. We just didn't have them. It didn't exist. I don't think our team actually played for like maybe 10 years.
Wow.
And I think when I was growing up, I was looking at rugby players and I was looking at, the Lance Armstrongs and those kind of players rather than looking within my own sport, because it wasn't really something that you would look at and be like, I want to be a soccer player and that's what I'm going to do as my job. It was just something you kind of did for fun. So I did it for fun until I was about 12 or 13. And then you start entering kind of rep level, national level tournaments. And it wasn't till then, start of high school, that it got a bit more serious for me. And it wasn't until about 15 or 16 that, again, you represent your national team. So, late bloomer, I guess, in that sense, because we're not picked up in we don't go through a development program like you would in America and developers early, I think.
Wow. Well, that just speaks to, even with you having grown up without all of that and now you're playing at the level that you are is just really impressive. So cheers to you for that.
Cheers.
So I did a little poll from the team and I was getting some background on Abby Erceg off the field. And I heard that you're a big baker as well. And you'll bake like not only Americanized treats, but also, some staples from New Zealand. What are some popular items that you would bake from your home country?
Yeah, I really like baking. I think it just kind of, I can zone out and play the music and just like get in the groove, whatever. And baking seems to make people really happy. So like, why wouldn't you want to bake and make people happy? So for birthdays or, for like St. Patty's Day or whatever, I'll bake something for the team and give them something to smile about. But from New Zealand, we're really big on biscuits, or you guys would call them cookies. So we call them biscuits. And
I'll call them delicious, whatever they are.
Yeah. But we have something called an Afghan biscuit, which is like a mix between a brownie and it's like a chocolate shortbread almost.
Ooh.
And it's got like cornflakes in it with like a chocolate shortbread around it. And it seems to be quite a hit. So
that sounds so
yeah,
interesting.
I think I make quite a lot, but I need somebody with me when I'm making them. So A, I don't eat them, and B, they can like help me if I am.
Yeah.
So I have to like make it and take it straight into the team. Otherwise, like I'm going to eat all of them.
I'm so bad about that. Like I enjoy baking as well, but I'm like, they're not safe in my apartment alone. I live alone. I'm like,
I know.
I need people to eat these.
So I have to make them like the night before and then take them to the team, or like make the morning of and just like take them, and so they're not in my house.
I heard the cake that you baked for Merritt Mathias's birthday. Tell us all about it. It was like a rainbow cake.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
It started a couple of years ago. I made her like a 4th of July cheesecake because she's right around the 4th of July. I was like, I want to do like a 4th of July thing. Like we love celebrating it. So we did like a 4th of July cheesecake. She really liked it. And we kind of theme her birthdays around that. So I made her a cake this year. And the inside was like 4th of July color. So it was like red, white, and blue. And then the outside was like rainbow color. So we had like a rainbow strip around the outside and like multicolored like frosting on top of it.
I think I saw, I was like, this is a work of art. I don't know how I would even eat that.
Yeah, I'd never really done anything like that, but I guess it's from the field. You want to challenge yourself, and I guess that kind of runs through into the rest of your life. You're like, well, I'm not sure if I can do this, but let's just see how it turns out. And like worst case, if it doesn't turn out well, I'm probably just not going to take it into the team anyway.
I feel like presenting something to the team, it's like the same pressure of the Olympics. So like, I got to perform. It's got to be good.
Yeah, it's like when you put your playlist on, you got to make sure it's like the best song so nobody like freaks out about it.
In the zone for baking. Heard it here first, folks. Abby gets in the zone for her baking and free games. Which I definitely wanted to chat about the baking thing, because I know most people who either follow you on Instagram or just know you as a player know you as just so in love with fitness and health and nutrition. So how do you balance the two? And I would love to hear more about, your fitness background and how you got so into it.
Yeah, I think, fitness started for me when I was back in New Zealand. So like I said, growing up, we didn't have this career of soccer laid out before us. So I actually got my certifications as a personal trainer as like a backup in case, I don't know, something happened with an injury or whatever. I just had something quick to fall back onto that I could earn some money and be okay. So I've had a passion for it for a really, really long time, since I was about 19. And I actually worked in gyms between the age of 19 to about 23, helping people out and their fitness goals. And then when I got a bit more serious with soccer, obviously coming to America, that kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. And it wasn't really until about 27 that I picked it back up again. And it was just, I think it was a time of reflection where I was in and out of the national team, not really sure what I wanted to do with that, and kind of regretting my time with them a little bit, in the sense that I wasn't as fit as I could be. I wasn't as strong as I could be. I think especially for a team like New Zealand, because we're not as highly ranked or we don't have a lot of time together, it needs to be that the players come in their best shape in order to give ourselves the best chance at peak events. So I kind of reflected a bit on that and was like, well, if I'm going to come back into this team, I want to make sure that I'm fit and I'm fast and I'm strong and I'm giving everything that I can to give us the best chance. And it kind of developed from that. So I did a lot more research. I got more certifications. I got my nutrition certifications as well. And again, it's still something that if I do get injured, I can fall back into, but it's also just a secondary passion that I have. And it ties quite well into soccer. Obviously, being fit and being strong and fast is our job. So I can balance that quite easily. It's not like a completely separate thing where I have to find time for it. I can actually fit into what I'm already doing.
Yeah, and watching your courage trainings, I'm like, I think that's like the most fitness I've ever seen anyone do.
I know. Well,
even
obviously training under Paul, it's like you have to be fitter and faster than you've ever been before. So it was around the same kind of time where I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to like step this up a level if I want to keep up.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you talk about it started as more of a physical thing, like wanting to be in really good shape. But I mentioned following your Instagram because you do these hashtag morning motivations, and I'm like amped up every 7 a.m. when I see Abby Erceg's Instagram story. But so did you feel that transition point where it became more than just a physical thing? It was more mentality and mental health on top of the fitness aspect that you started to develop a passion for?
Yeah, I think I obviously putting those posts on Instagram, a lot of people have seen them, and I've actually got a lot of messages from people. So people were messaging me being like, can you train me? Can I train with you? How much is it? And I kind of had a side business doing that for a while. And then once the motivations came out for a long time, if I missed a day or if I was traveling and missed a day, I was getting just like tons of messages just like, where's the morning motivation? I wake up every morning and like need this morning motivation. Like I was like, what the heck?
People actually are watching.
People really, really enjoyed those. And I get a lot of messages still saying like, oh, I really appreciate your morning motivations, or I really appreciate your workouts. You're really helping me. Or I've had quite a few people message me and be like, hey, I've lost like 10 pounds or I've lost 20 pounds just following your workouts or following your morning motivations. Yeah. So like, I think helping people without directly helping people there's a little bit of motivation in that as well. Like if I can just post something, it takes me a minute in the morning. Why not help people out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it works for me. I'm up. I'm like, do I really want to go work? I'm like, Abby's motivating me. I'm curious too. What is something for you personally that really helps motivate you? Is there ever a quote that pops up? You're like, wow, that really resonates with me, or something that's really clicked for you that has been a mentality that you've used?
I'm actually quite internally motivated. I don't find that I need a lot of external motivation, but a lot of my motivation comes from doing things rather than words or just seeing things on social media. So I get motivated by things in the team. Say somebody's doing something and they're trying really hard. You know that they're tired, but they just give their extra effort. Like things like that are what motivate me. So being in a team and being in a team environment motivate me, but also challenging myself to see what my body can do. I'm always really, really interested to see how far I can push my body and how much I can give back. So I tend to do that, especially in the off season a lot. I will go for like 3 or 4 hour hikes, and I want to see how fast I can do it. Or when I'm in the gym, I just want to see how strong I can get in the amount of time that I've got, So it's small things like that. And I think, again, it's just the athlete mentality. You always want to push the envelope a little bit and see where you can go and what you can do.
Well, I feel like that's what makes you such an elite athlete, and why you're with, one of the best teams in the world. I feel like with the courage, you've been with the team now since 2015, back when you guys were Western New York Flash.
2016. Yeah.
2016.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious of how you felt like your role. I know you're obviously the captain now, but how has your role kind of transformed now, and where do you see the team going from here?
Yeah, I actually, when I got traded from Chicago into New York, I tried desperately to get out of it. I tried so hard to not go, because at the time, New York were at the very bottom of the table. Chicago were making playoffs every year. And I didn't want to go. I liked Chicago. It was a really cool city. I was going to be traded to Buffalo, of all places, and it wasn't the best place to go. So, I tried really hard to get out of it. Had a lot of lawyers look at the contract to make sure, it was all like, this is what I had to do. And then my mum was just like, you know what, give it a year. If you really don't like it, then you can quit. But you can't quit before you've given it a shot. Yeah. That's probably the best advice I've ever had. So we're
thankful for it.
Going in, being an international, it's the way that you function in a team is a little bit different. You don't go in expecting to be a captain or being in a leadership role necessarily. In Chicago, I had a small leadership role, but I wasn't the captain, or I wasn't called upon in big moments or anything like that. I captained my national team for a while, but again, going into the American environment, it's a little bit different than the New Zealand environment. We're quite Kiwis are quite timid, and we're quite non-confrontational, and we're not going to be loud. We're going to do things by action rather than by words. And I find it's the opposite in America. Americans still do things by actions, but they like words and they like motivation coming from somebody. They like to look up to somebody. They like, they like that thing in front of them that they can go towards. And I'm not vocal by nature. So it was a really big shift for me to come in and Paul be like, we want you to be the captain. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to like pick up my game a little bit here and work on my communication and find out how I can adapt my captaincy style a little bit to suit an American culture rather than a New Zealand culture. So I did a little bit of work around that. I did that with my national team as well. And every year I just kind of, I want to pick something up or I want to get better at something to help the team get better.
That's so interesting because not only did I write down based off some of the conversations I've had with your teammates about you is you are very much a lead by example and a great listener and someone, you're not as much as a vocal leader as you said, you truly do lead by example. So I think it's so interesting that you have the different cultural comparisons because that's something I never, I guess, noticed growing up playing in the American culture of soccer, that there's such a contrast there. So I think it's really impressive that you put in the work to kind of adjust to the American showing, which will work very well.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It's not something that you go into a team thinking about consciously. It's not until you put into that situation where you're like, oh, there's a difference here. I probably need to make an adjustment.
Wow. Yeah, well, that's a really interesting point. Opened my eyes for sure. But
it's the small things, I swear.
Yeah. Well, those are some of the questions that we had, but I did have a celebrity question, aka Carrie Riccaro, submit a question for you. She asked a few, but her question to Abby Erceg is: if you were stranded on an island, what are the 3 things you're going to bring with you? As if you're preparing to be stranded.
Yeah. I think I'm going to take some kind of entertainment, so like a book, or like a crossword, or like something like that. Maybe like a jigsaw or something that I can like do over and over and over again. I probably want something in terms of survival. I know that people are like, oh, I want to take like this cool thing, but I'm very like practical, and I want to think like, oh, how am I going to survive, and like how is this going to make it easier? So like maybe something like a fishing rod, or like a knife or something, or like something to help me. And then maybe like a tarpaulin style thing. So
what?
Like I don't know what you guys call it here. I always have this problem where I'm like trying to describe something to people.
Translate.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What does it look like?
A tarp, like a big like
a tarp.
Tarp.
Yeah, a tarp. Like a tent.
Yeah. Okay. We're talking about the same thing. Okay, tarpaulin is just the full word for it, I guess.
Well, see, I'm learning something new.
Okay.
Learning so many things during this. This is more of an interview for me. What does Megan not know how to survive with? A tarpaulin. All right, everyone. That's what you got to pack next time you're going to plan on being stranded.
It's time for red card, yellow card.
Before we wrap it up, we do play a quick little game called yellow card, red card, or play on.
Oh, okay.
And this is basically, I'm going to give you 3 things from one category, and play on means I want that one thing. You'll pick one thing that you're like, all right, need that in my life. Yellow card means I could live without it. Don't love it. Red card means nope, that's a no for me. Get it out of my life. So starting off with a doozy for Abby Erceg, we're going workout exercises. And you can only do this exercise for like the rest of your life. So we got 3 ring pull-ups, reverse lunges.
Or do I pick one and then like?
Yeah, you'll like rank them basically, or weighted push-ups. So if you say red, whichever one's red card means you're not doing that anymore. Yellow card is like, all right, I guess I maybe, and then play on is like, I need that. That's it.
Okay, well, lunges is a red card for sure.
Let's get out of here.
Like get out of it. Pull-ups, play on, and then push-ups, yellow card.
Okay, all right. Get those lunges. See ya.
Get rid of this, and they always make you so sore.
No matter how many you want to do. Like, oh, stairs are tough. All right, 2 more quick ones. Your off day activities: meditation, crossword puzzles, or baking. We're stumping her with these.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Oh no, this is actually quite difficult. Crossword puzzles is play on.
Okay.
Baking Baking, I'm going to go red card.
Okay.
And then yellow card meditation. That was really difficult.
Oh, man. Wow. I hope this one doesn't stump you as much, but that was a tough one. And this one may or may not have also been submitted by Carrie Recaro. Shout out to Carrie for all your assistance on these. All right. Nickname for Abby. Is it either Abby, Kiwi, or Mrs. Kiki May?
Honestly, I would say red card to Mrs. Kiki May, but it brings her so much joy. So
Okay.
I'll give that a yellow.
Okay.
That'll be yellow. But I think Kiwi has to stay, play on, and then red card to the last one.
Your real name. See ya, Abby.
Why not?
All right. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. I appreciate you joining us, telling us your entire life story and all of your incredible motivations. Everyone follow Abby on Instagram to feel motivated, or like, oh my God, I need to stop eating.
No. That's not what it's about.
No, it's very inspiring, and we look forward to seeing you back out on the field with the courage.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Coming up on Courage on the Pitch.
All right, shout out to Abby for joining us on the show here. Now, coming up for North Carolina FC, our men's side, they face off against North Texas on Saturday night, kickoff at 9 p.m. on ESPN+. And then the North Carolina Courage will be home on Sunday night, facing off against the Chicago Red Stars, and they kick off at 6 p.m. So be sure to get your tickets, or if you're not able to make it in person, catch it live on Paramount+. All right, thanks everyone for listening in. Don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, all the great things of to do with our show. And that is a wrap on episode 5. Thanks so much for joining.
Courage on the Pitch is sponsored by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care. Courage on the Pitch with Megan O'Keefe is part of the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, with new shows available every Thursday on WRALSportsFan.com or wherever you get your podcasts.